and today we're shooting the breeze, man. Up close and personal with Osofo Maame. Baby, sorry. But you're back in Ghana and you're coming to the heat of things. You know, we just talked about the CSE, and there's also something else brewing.
Yes.
Sex for Grace.
Yes.
Woo.
Ooh.
Have you seen the video?
I watched it last night.
You watched it last night?
Yes. I staggered into the house and I was like, I need to watch this, and then I immediately went to bed with a headache.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I find troubling is that one of the, I guess I should say in fairness, accused professors is now running from post to pillar, and they're giving him further platforms to have this discussion, and he's denying what we all clearly saw on video. And I don't think that that's responsible for us to even allow or entertain that. He needs to deal with the matter internally with his department before going out there, and now bringing further allegations and accusations which are not going to help his cause. He doesn't realize it. Now he's talking about he's going to sue the BBC, and it's like, sir, those of us who work in media, like your media experience is far more extensive than mine is. But before you get to a documentary, there's hundreds of hours of tape that's been cut. Be grateful for the little that they've put out there. Don't put yourself in a position to be further embarrassed. You know, just take your L, as the youth say.
So you have the feeling that the BBC is holding on to a whole lot more.
Oh, absolutely.
And that if you should go to court, then they'll drop some more.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, and then there's, because it was only 53 minutes long, and they had to cut between the Nigerian incidents and the Ghana incidents, and we know that there's more. They just picked pieces of, and again, the reason he feels like he's attacked is because, or targeted, is because he's so notorious, obviously, in this kind of behavior, that he was the go-to person, because he has a history of doing this stuff. And again, that lack of self-awareness and that lack of shame, that shamelessness as a perpetrator of this sort of violence. And because we have a culture that rewards people who are violent and oppress other people, you don't even have the sense that, you know, maybe I should sit back and reflect on this and think about what I've really done to women I've forgotten about, students I've even forgotten about.
I think, and the sad thing for me is how that feeds into that general misconception that any woman in the university who is like acing her work probably must be sleeping with somebody to get there. You know? I mean, the first time we had a very distinguished electoral commissioner in Ghana, then, we know she slept away there. It has a problem, you know. So it's not just sex for grace, it's sex for everything.
Sex for everything.
Sex for positions and power, sex for jobs, sex for everything. And from where you sit or where you're coming from, how do you deal with this?
Okay, so there's a couple different ways I deal with it. As a Christian, how do I deal with it? I mean, obviously this is something I pray about. As a creative and as an activist, this is something I write about and talk about. As a mother, it's something that I try to prepare my daughters for and to warn my son against. You know, so there's so many different ways that as an individual that I deal with these things. And hoping that each one of those will touch them. And also, I've kind of shied away from having big discussions about this stuff because you find that you lose the messaging in the process. And so when you have one-on-one discussions with people, and people are more vulnerable one-on-one, because you'll be surprised. There's 1 degree of separation between a Ghanaian woman, and I'm speaking as a Ghanaian woman, and sexual assault. I don't know a single Ghanaian woman who either hasn't been abused herself or is friends or family or acquaintance with someone who has suffered some form of sexual abuse. You could talk to anybody, a house girl, a pastor, the first lady of any institution, and she knows someone who's intimate details of these things. And so we have a cultural wide problem. And it's not just happening on our university campuses. It's happening in our elementary schools. It's happening when you send your kid to creche. Someone is touching them that shouldn't be touching them. It's happening when you go to the bank and you want to become a teller, and it's like, well, you are solicited for sex. It's happening in our churches. It's a system-wide issue that we need to address. And this is just one aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm happy we're having this discussion. And again, it goes back to CSE. And the two are connected. So I'm a bit sad that we've moved away from the CSE discussion and we've moved on to sex for grades when it's actually a continuity, and the two are intrinsically linked. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What's your personal view? Would you have a teacher teach this as a CSE, or you think it's the role of the parents to be handling that, or is both?
KSM. I have a 14-year-old daughter who will be 15 soon, and I'm amazed at what she knows. But then I think back to when I was 15, and I'm horrified by what I knew. Whether we like it or not, kids are having these discussions. I was actually talking to my sister, and we were having this discussion, and she said, Malaka, think about it. Think about when we were little. The concept of sex and relations is everywhere. Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, Daffy Duck and Daisy Duck. These were people in relationships. The Flintstones, they were married. So-and-so is the girlfriend to so-and-so. Even My Little Pony isn't safe. So the concept of relationships and sex and affection in that way is already embedded in your child's mind before you are ready to have the conversation. And so it behooves us as parents and as stakeholders and adults to jump in the beginning and to level set that before we allow the culture that we hate so much, or abhor so much, get in there and train our children's minds. So yes, teachers and parents, and that's why you have a PTA, so that we can have these very serious discussions together, because my job as a parent is to raise my children. Your job as the teacher is to teach them, but we're in this together. It is not like, when my child comes home, that child is no longer your problem, because what happens at home will affect you in the classroom. What happens in the classroom affects me at home. So there's a partnership. And so I think that whoever is best qualified to do the job should do it. And that might be having parents come in who are sensitized to this, to give talks. And there's some teachers I wouldn't let within a mile of my children having this discussion, It might be a counselor, it might be the principal. It's whoever is best trained and qualified to have this discussion.
Very, very important. Who is doing the teaching? It's very, very important.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Malaka! And before I forget, let's talk about your books.
Yes.
You're a writer.
Yes, I am.
I see you have some very interesting books on there.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
There's Daughters of Swallows. Would you like to see?
Yes. Daughters of Swallows.
Yes.
Is about.
It's a kind of an anthology. It follows 4 women. This was actually my first book. Okay. And I mentioned Adventures from the Bedrooms of African Women, which I started with Nana Dakwa. And this book actually started as a series on the blog. And our readers were like, let's turn this into a book. So I say this isn't my first book. I say it's our first book, that us and the adventurers, wrote together. Well, I wrote it, and so it follows 4 different women from different backgrounds, and just navigating life in Ghana as of 2015, when the story takes place. So there's issues of religion. There's issues of one of my characters was sold to a wealthy man to compensate for a debt that he had incurred, which is something that has happened to an acquaintance of mine. She was sent to this man's house and eventually became his wife because her father had borrowed money. He was like, okay, well, give me your child. And I'm like, and I'm 41. I don't mind saying it because I look great,
You
but
do.
but like in my lifetime, to think that this was a reality for a woman in my age bracket is just, inconceivable. And then there's a woman in there who discovers that she has a half brother. And she falls in love with her half-brother, not knowing that it is her half-brother. And then that goes back to, these extended families and these conversations that we don't have about, either mothers or fathers who step out. And because of that shame, not admitting to, I've had an extramarital affair, or I have 2 or 3 different families, and you better watch out because, you think this is just somebody you're attracted to, but you're attracted to this person because you share DNA, So it follows the lives of these women and how they overcome that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like a movie as well. Have you?
It would make an excellent movie. I'm waiting for Ava DuVernay to contact me, Shirley Frimpong Manso, anybody, I'll take.
Shirley, if you're listening.
I'm here, I'm ready.
Wow. I don't have
Madness and Tea.
Madness and Tea.
Yes.
I like the title. Madness and Tea and
Madness
the tea we drink?
And the tea we drink, yes.
Really?
Or as in spilling the tea.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
both of them. So Madness and Tea, in the foreword, I actually wrote to my father, and it says, "For Daddy, because you told me to give you something to read, and because I want to prove once and for all that I am your most obedient daughter." So this is an amalgamation of the best stories from my blog.
Okay.
Wow. And so, so the first part is madness. And it's just like crazy stories. It's for people to laugh, and then the second half is the tea, spilling the tea of your womanhood. And it's like, girl, let me tell you what happened, So that's the second half of the book.
Before we go, where can we get copies of this? People are listening now, I'm sure. They would love to.
Yes, they would love to, and I would love them to, because school fees. So, so these are available on Amazon.com, on takealot.com, and then here locally, he doesn't know, Nana Aware Damois has a bookstore.
Too,
He's
so.
Of course, because everyone has been here. This is the KSM show.
Hey.
Yes. So, give it up. So I'm leaving directly from this studio to go to his bookstore to go and dump all my books there, so your viewers can go and collect them from there.
Where to get it, another one, and we'll get to some more information about where you can get this in Ghana.
Yes.
And I see there's another one there.
Yes, Lover of Her Soul.
Okay.
This is, would you like to be holding them or should
Yes,
I just? Okay.
Definitely. Not only holding them, keeping them.
Keeping them. Swag. So Lover of Her Soul is a kind of a play on a Cinderella story, and it's based in Kumasi.
Really?
Yes, it is. And I think that every person from Kumasi should own this book. But up until, it was funny, full disclosure, up until last week, I'd never been to the Ashanti region before.
Really?
Yes.
So you're writing about Kumasi
and I'd never been there.
Wow. So all the Kumasi references, just your imagination, everything?
And Google, with the help of Google.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Ask Google.
Ask Google. Google interviews, personal interviews with people. And that's one of my strengths, is just like, drawing things out of people. But I always mispronounce it. The Ahinema slippers, is that how? Yes. Yeah. Ahinema slippers were actually gifted to me from Her Royal Highness Nana Hima, Queen Mother of Konongo. And she lives in Atlanta. Well, she divides her time between Atlanta and Ghana. And I really wanted to tell this story about a shoemaker who'd fallen on hard times. And not the shoemaker as in he repairs shoes, but he actually makes shoes as a passion. And I said, I'm looking for these slippers. Do you have like an old pair? Then, and she gave me this beautiful pair of shoes. And I was going to give it back to her. And she said, no. Once I give something out as Queen Mother, I don't get it back. Wow. Yeah. And so for me, I was really touched that, that I got a pair of royal slippers, for this cover that's based in Kumasi. So, that's Lover of Her Soul.
Great.
Yes.
And the last one you have?
The last two, yes. Sally and the Butterfly and Ya Trap's Death in a Basket. So we talked about CSE earlier, right? And having children make choices. And so Sally and the Butterfly is a pick your own path book, and allows the child, as he or she is reading, to choose the direction that the character goes in. In this case, it's Sally or Salima. And so, you and I, we're accustomed that when we read, it's linear. We follow whatever the author, wherever the author takes us is where we go. But in this book, I ask a question: do you want Sally to go with these people? Do you want Sally to go with these people? You make the choice. And so the child gets to choose the outcome of the story. Wow. But the good thing is, so this is for early readers, this is for grade 3 and below. But no matter what happens, Sally always ends up safe at the end of the book. So there's no calamity for her because it's for young readers. Yeah, when I start writing for older readers, then it'll be Game of Thrones. There'll be fire everywhere. Yes, heads cut off and so on and so forth. Yeah, and then Ya Trap's Death in a Basket.
I like that title.
You like it?
Yeah, trapped to death
in a basket. Yes.
Wow.
And so, as you can see, you can't really tell, but the spirit of death is like, there's the basket right there. And Polka Arts, who was actually on your show, is my illustrator for these books. Okay. So yeah, fantastic illustrations. And death actually ends up fearing because in all death's existence, no one has ever been able to command him and confine him in a space.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
so
put him in a trap.
And in a basket.
The
yes.
basket.
Yes.
Trapped him in the basket. Yeah.
But there's consequences for trapping death. So the readers will have to find out what those are.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Just a lot, man. Oh man. Malaka, this has been fantastic.
Yes, it has. I've had a blast.
That's been fantastic, and I'm so glad I finally got you in the studio. And keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
We need your comments. We need your voice. I mean, you know.
And we need you. I'm so grateful for you. You don't know. I mean, I already told you off air, but I'm like, I've had 2 shows I've wanted to be on in my life. One was Oprah and one is KSM. And this for me it's amazing. So.
Well, good to you all, and please, so all these books we can get from Nana Damois, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be giving you more information before we end the show so that you can all get copies of this amazing book. And by the way, you have to show some love because Malaka's dad is in the audience.
My sweet father.
Sweet father, wherever you are.
Hey.
Okay, folks, stick around, we'll be right back.
The KSM Show.
Okay, folks, I told you we'll get you some information how you can get copies of these books by Malaka Grant, and they are free delivery service to you anywhere in Ghana. Send a WhatsApp message to 024-5275-981, or you can send an email to sales@booknook.store and give them all the information, and you get free deliveries wherever you are in Ghana.